The latest horror film in 2024, Killing Nightmare, is shocked. If you are going to bed now, then congratulations. After reading it, it would definitely make you have a good dream, and good things must be shared. Call your best friend who is sleeping and dreaming. Remind him it's time for bed. Watch a movie first. Not much to say. Positive film starts. The male protagonist is a good student at the school, but since one day, his parents were involved in a car accident, he's haunted by nightmares every day, and in the middle of the night, he always hears his mother calling him. On this night, the living room is as playful as ever, but when the male protagonist came out to check, he found nothing. Just then, ghost sounds outside the window. Wait for the male protagonist to turn around. The sound of the window disappeared. Then there was the sound of heavy footsteps. Hear the sound getting closer. This scared the male protagonist into a cold sweat. The male protagonist can't stay any longer, turned around and wanted to run upstairs, but he just arrived at the door. The door closes automatically. Then the footsteps behind him quickly approached. Fortunately, at a critical moment, the male protagonist opened the door and escaped. It turns out that all this is still the hero's nightmare. The sky is already bright. The male protagonist gasped for breath at the scene in his dream. Sweat wet my back. For these things, he was too afraid to tell his grandfather, because he thinks his parents were so kind to him during his lifetime. How could you have poisoned him in a dream? So, he felt like he had bumped into something evil. Grandpa is now his only relative. He didn't want Grandpa to be out pointing anything. But things are getting worse. His nightmares are day and night. As soon as he closes his eyes, horrifying images from nightmares will appear. The male protagonist is physically and mentally exhausted by this torture. He can only reveal a little to his grandfather. See if Grandpa has any good ideas. But Grandpa said, the male lead is just caused by too much study pressure. Then he often takes the male protagonist to see a psychiatrist. But only the male protagonist himself knows that it is all useless. Doctors can't cure him at all. Just this day, the male protagonist gathers at school, but suddenly he felt something was wrong. Fortunately, the heroine held his hand and told him not to worry. He just came out of the nightmare. It turns out that the heroine has psychic abilities. You can sense things that ordinary people can't. At night, he had planned to seek the help of the heroine the next day. But just after he fell asleep, white fog suddenly appeared around. When the police looked, they found he has arrived in a virgin forest. All the trees have withered, revealing an extremely strange atmosphere. However, the most terrifying thing is, a man was imprisoned under a big tree. He kept struggling to get out. Seeing this scene made the male protagonist terrified. However, just then, an old lady suddenly appeared. Ask him how he got here. The voice just fell. A burst of singing broke out. The man trapped by a tree, like being stimulated by something, break free and follow the song. Then he was pulled into the cave where the song was sung. The male protagonist was frightened and panicked. The next second, it will be pierced by a branch. Just then, wake up from a nightmare. The male protagonist, who is in a good mood, is just getting ready to go to school. But the news on TV made him realize something. A man died mysteriously at home, and that man happened to be, it's the one in my dream last night. To find out the truth, the male protagonist came to the scene of the incident after school. Hope to get some clues from here. Hear these words. The male protagonist is more certain about yesterday. Late dreams are not easy. At night, the male protagonist enters the woods again. This time he met an old man again. He was drawn into the cave by the song. Not long after, the old man's head flew out of the cave. Don't think too much. The male protagonist turns and runs. Just then, the old lady who appeared in a dream before suddenly appear and tell him only the male protagonist can end it all. The next day TV reported another death. The deceased was last night. The old man who was murdered in his dream come to school. It is learned that the people who died in the past 2 days were all from the same village. In the evening, the male protagonist brought the female protagonist home. Ask her to be psychic. Let him know for himself what the hell is going on. Not long after, the heroine successfully channeled and summoned up the 2 dead souls. They told the male protagonist the demon who took office in his nightmare was named Sukma. If the male protagonist wants to be completely safe, then go find Mustika. Only he knows how to kill demons. And told the male protagonist how to find Mustika. The voice just fell. Female protagonist metamorphosis. Then Sukma got on the body of the heroine. The devil told the hero. The next moment it was his turn. Then he left the heroine's body. Everybody sat down afterwards. After the explanation of the male protagonist's grandfather, just know, the male protagonist's life experience is the same as that of the previous victim. All from the same village. So, why would the devil attack the people in that village? So far no one knows. Only find Mustika to know the truth. After hard work, they finally found Mustika. They finally figured out what had happened. Sukma was a witch on top gifter. But once, Sukma had an accident while treating the villagers. After that, the villagers don't care about right or wrong. They caught Sukma, get up, and starve him to death. And right after Sukma died, no one buried her. But after a few days, Sukma's body actually disappeared. Mustika suspects her son took it. As the son of a witch, the suspicion is that her son has used countless. Make Sukma a demon for revenge. This is why Sukma found chaos in the village. Mustika is psychic. She is lucky to be alive until now. Because the male protagonist has an energy, can handle Sukma. That's why she often goes to her dreams to help him. Finally learning that only Sukma's body was found, and burn her to end it all. Several people are ready for the next day. Go find Sukma's body. But at night, Mustika sensed something was wrong. He went inside to check. And then it was Sukma's son who killed Mustika, but no one knows. He had been lurking in the man's house before. And the next day, they learned of Mustika's death. Just when they don't know what to do, the heroine was suddenly possessed by a demon. In the nick of time, the male protagonist pierced the female protagonist's palm. The devil left the body of the heroine. Just then, the hero's best friend suddenly woke up. Why does the male protagonist dream every day? Someone must have done something. They go home, they check everything. Sure enough, Nightmare Doll was found under the bed. They now finally know what's going on. To be able to do all this quietly, then only the servants of your own family. Thinking of Grandpa, the male protagonist hurried to Grandpa's room. Came here and found that Grandpa was in a coma by this time. Looking under the bed, there are also nightmare dolls. Not surprisingly, Grandpa's soul has been taken to the woods. The male protagonist then put his hand on Grandpa's head. He wants to bring his grandfather out of the dream. Came here to find Grandpa crawling beside the devil. The devil seemed to know he was coming. Turned around and looked at the male protagonist. Tell me to just follow myself. Will let go of his grandfather. But the male protagonist knows what the devil says and can't believe it. Maybe he was worried about his grandfather's safety. The male protagonist erupts with unprecedented power. He was just about to leave with his grandfather, but he underestimated the power of the devil. Then he was tackled by the devil. Grandpa is eager to save life. He directly pierced the two with a branch. The male protagonist wakes up, but his grandfather stayed in the dream. They took Grandpa to the hospital first. The three of them discussed it once. Prepare to divide into two. The male protagonist goes to the dream to fight the devil, the heroine, and the two go to find the demon's body. The male protagonist just entered a dream. Unexpectedly, it was controlled by the devil. Although the male protagonist resisted, but still no match for the devil, and in reality, his body was also damaged. On the other hand, the heroine, they actually found the body without a hitch, but it's not that simple to burn the body, because the witch's son is also here. After a fierce fight, the witch's son is ultimately defeated by 4 fists. The heroine sets the body on fire, and the demon in the dream began to react violently. The devil finally vanishes. The male protagonist left the dream with his grandfather. In this way, the life of the male protagonist has finally returned to peace. The devil's son was also brought to justice for the murder. The movie ends. See you next time.